Welcome to Create Your Happy, the podcast that empowers conscious women in life, relationship, and business. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness hussy and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. Now get ready, because on this very special bonus season, we are going to take your entrepreneurial journey to a whole nother level. These uncut conversations are designed to support you as you unleash your entrepreneurial brilliance upon the world. My incredible guests and I have come together with a shared vision to empower women to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and lead with love. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's exciting masterclass. I am super excited. This week we are talking a little bit about human design, subconscious energy, all of these good things that contribute to effective and super fun marketing for your business. And so today I have with me brand alchemist and communication strategist, Meg Rouje. And I am super excited to share this conversation with you. So welcome, Meg. I'm super excited to dive right in. I would love to invite you to share a little bit about yourself. What got you into this area, and this super fun conversation will just, I'm sure, flow from there.
Thank you, Christy, for inviting me. I'm super excited. So it's going to be a great conversation for sure. So a little bit about me. I've been into the subconscious stuff for such a long time. It's just an obsession of mine. And I come from advertising. I came from fine arts and then went into advertising, and so all of things communication. And at some point, everything just came together as a branding strategist, where you create this presence to communicate who you truly are and how you can help people. And human design came as it's one of the latest pieces that I've added to my work, because when I started online, I kind of struggled at the beginning. It was really hard to find what worked for me, because everyone was telling me what to do and how to market and, these kind of things. You should post every day.
So many rules.
Too many shoots.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. And then I discovered human design casually. It was not, prepared. And so I got a reading and I got curious. So I got really more into that. And then I realized that the more I followed what I already knew about myself, but I was having some sort of validation right now. I was like, oh, I can do marketing in a way that aligns to my energy. And that's when my business completely took off, and I was like, this is magic. And which makes sense, because energy is what we are, right? But we don't really think about it when we are too busy doing the things. But it's been, the perfect addition to what I'm already doing, because it comes with the way we perceive the world around us, the people. And so it talks to our subconscious as well. So cool stuff.
I discovered human design 2 years ago-ish, although I have to say that I was aware of a lot of those things prior to actually hearing about it through human design. I found it was a very, very, it made me feel very seen in many of the aspects of myself. And I saw it as a permission slip to allow myself to really just be those things that I maybe was like, I don't know, if I should, if this maybe isn't the best quality, or other people have told me throughout my life that that's a weakness or whatnot. And I just sort of leaned in and realized this is actually a permission slip to be fully who I am. And so I would love for anybody watching to grab their chart if they haven't already. And what you're going to want to look at is your profile. Now it's like a generator, projector, reflector, manifestor, manifesting generator. That's your main type. And then you've got these two numbers. I'm a 2-4, and I'm a 2-4 projector. So if anybody's just curious about that, you can grab those small pieces of information and have those with you for the conversation. We're not going to dive a lot deeper than that. There's about 1 million pieces to your chart. You could go down a lot of rabbit holes. I've been down some of them myself. It's very fascinating. But for the purposes of this conversation, those are the only parts of your chart that you really need to know. So we're not going to be diving a lot deeper than that today. Meg, what's your human design type?
I'm a manifesting generator 5-2.
Okay.
So I'm pretty rare.
Yeah.
Those sparkles. Yeah. I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, well, that means I'm special or something? No, it's just that the 5-2 is a kind of weird angle in the space of things and planets. And so it doesn't happen that commonly, but that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's double projection. So it's kind of complex stuff when you really get into it. But yeah, 5-2 is not that common, but we both have the 2, which is great.
Yeah. It's so interesting. The biggest, just for a moment to offshoot onto what I discovered about it, it really answered why I am both very outgoing and very friendly, and then also why I really also like to be alone. And now I used to spend a lot of time really in that 4 energy, which is like very networky, friendly, outgoing, which is very contrasted if people are not, if they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Line 4, line 2. Line 4 is like very like networking, energetic, going out, meeting people, connecting with people, connector, right? And then the 2 line is the hermit who just kind of wants to stay home. And so it kind of brought those 2 together for me. And I would say over the course of the pandemic, I really shifted from being a little bit more extroverted in nature. And I recognize actually now I was avoiding fully sitting with myself. And the pandemic actually gave me an opportunity to really lean into my hermit side. And I really learned to appreciate that time by myself in my own thoughts and in my own presence, which honestly, that was a massive gift. Anyways, enough about my profile. Let's dive into marketing based on human design. Meg, where are we going to start with this journey?
Okay, first we can explain why marketing with human design, right? What was the point? Why do we even talk about this? So the point in marketing is there is this idea of marketing. It's kind of trying to sell your things, or we have a very distorted perception of marketing, and that I think comes from all of us were born around the 70s, 80s, 90s, when marketing was very pushy, very salesy, very icky. And so we all have this distorted idea because of what we've experienced our life, because most of us, I'm pretty sure no matter where we come from, we had those salesmen at the door trying to sell something and they were like pushing, you're like, no, hiding, not to answer the door.
Yeah.
We all got that. So I think we have this vision, marketing, sales is just like, but it's not actually that. It's just the way I say it is really how you communicate what you're here to do. And like you communicate your genius through your branding. So branding is all about the subconscious way of communicating, because as human beings, communication is 90% subconscious and 10% what we actually say. And so a big piece of it is the energy behind it. And so when you feel, when you want to sell your program and you feel, I don't like marketing, and you feel very unease and icky, that's the energy that you're in when you're sharing your post. And that's something that people perceive at a subconscious level. So overall, your branding presence, because branding is the presence that you create in the mind of people, becomes distorted. So they don't really perceive you as the person you actually are. They perceive you as a mask that you're putting on right then to be able to do the business part of your work. And I also talk about archetypes a lot, which is the persona, the mask, and all of that. And so human design is a tool. So it's not the answers to questions, it's a tool that I use with my clients where thanks to their chart, they can find more validation in who they are and how they do things and how can they approach their communication. So when they show up for their marketing, and not only will they be able to express what they do in a way that feels good, but I also feel excited about their marketing and about their branding and about creating this presence. So instead of feeling like, ew, I'm having to sell things, they're just being themselves. They're just being aligned at an energetic level, which is perceived as a subconscious level from the people who are reading your post, watching your lives, and all of these things. So that's a big piece of how we connect and how we can build deeper and more genuine relationships. So the energetics of it is super important, and human design allows us to not really find the answers, because ideally you kind of know yourself. It just gives you permission, as you said, to be more yourself and to create a marketing strategy based on certain aspects of your chart. And for example, if you think of the centers, just knowing which are defined, you know where your energy is more consistent. So instead of being drained by your marketing, you can be energized by your marketing.
Really just stepping into being authentically you. That's, to me, that's what the permission slip is about finding and using your voice. There was an episode earlier in the series about finding your voice with confidence. So again, this is really just about finding your voice, using your voice, and stepping into being authentically you. No masks, no people pleasing, no weird bro marketing, sales tactics that feel ick, right? And shifting the world. And this is a little bit why I am approaching this masterclass series in this conversational way, because it is a little bit more of a, we'll say, a feminine energy. It's a little bit softer of an approach. It's not that in your face, like, blah, here's all the stuff, but it's, getting to know who I am and getting to know who my guests are on an authentic level. Just them showing up and sharing their special magic, their special wisdom, the experiences, and all of the pieces that they've brought together from their life that they are now able to teach to others. And I think, it's just a more authentic way of delivering that doesn't feel like an aggressive sales pitch. Like, sometimes you think about a masterclass and half of it's kind of conversation and information, and then the last half is just one massive sales pitch. And I wanted to just turn that on its head, give people the value. If they connect, if the authentic connection is there, they're going to reach out.
Yep.
And the same
and also
thing with
because
your marketing, right? Like the same thing. If you are authentically putting yourself out there, people are going to reach out to you.
Yeah, I always say that masterclasses are not meant to sell, are meant to teach and help people with something specific. And then if they feel like you're the right person to help them, then they're going to keep going on the journey with you. But we have this huge misconception about, marketing and sales and all of that. Because there is this bro marketing as well, which is terrible, pain points and all of that. It's like, oh, no, thank you. But there are much better ways to do it. And it's just about considering that what we do eventually is just being ourselves and just putting out there that we have some sort of genius, even if sometimes we have a lot of doubts about it, and that we want to help a certain type of person. And that's it. It's all about how we communicate it, and communicate in a way that resonates with the person and with ourselves, because we are putting ourselves out there. So it has to feel good. And so that's the energy part of the whole game, like feeling good about talking about the things that you're actually passionate about and how what you do can actually help people. So that's the whole point.
And when you're doing that, it feels much more easy, right? I'm not saying marketing is not straight up easy, but there are easier ways to go about it. And when you're being authentically you, it's going to flow much more easily. When you're speaking in your natural voice, it's going to come more easily to you. If you're trying to fit the mold, or again, this comes back to a lot of people pleasing. And as I talk about people pleasing a lot, because we are trying to sell what other people want to hear a lot of times, right? And we do need to find a mix, because we need to communicate in a way that will land with them. But we need to be careful that we're still bringing our authentic voice through in that, and not manipulating that in some sort of way to just get that outcome. Because like you said, subconsciously that energy flowing below the surface is going to identify them that something is not quite right. Yeah. And plus you're going to just feel icky about it. And that's not fun. We're here for having fun.
Right. It's because it's just when you meet someone and you just, hey, hi, nice to meet you, all of that. And you kind of just feel like, oh, I really like this person. You don't know why, but you just have this attraction. Or the opposite, you're like, yeah, he's nice, but meh, And that's the energetic part of it, because I approach energy in a very scientific way as well, because I'm very, into subconscious stuff and neuroscience and all of that. But like the way I put it is, we are just particles floating in space. We are nothing more than that. It's just the illusion of matter, but we just floating little bubbles. And we are made of the same stuff, the same ingredients that is made the sky and the moon and the planets and everything else, right? We're nothing special eventually. So when we really manage to make these little bubbles float in a way that the movement creates a certain type of frequency, that's when other bubbles of that frequency, get sucked in. So that's the attraction piece, if you want. So it explained in a very funny way. But it's all about how we feel about other people and how we feel about ourselves, which is also a big piece in business. So just being able to have this connection and just having fun. And when you're excited about something, people around you can feel it. They know you're having fun. You're not faking it, right?
Yeah.
So that's super important.
And so, I'm going to throw in a tiny story about this. I'm really passionate about relationship and helping people in relationship. And I just want to share, thinking about these bubbles and those frequencies. When I was fresh out of my divorce, and I had done a lot of work on myself and really built this very loving and accepting relationship with myself, I came out very clear about what I wanted and what I didn't want. But I knew I had a very clear boundary of what I was going to tolerate, what I was looking for, what was going to be beneficial to me and what wasn't. And so when I went out there with that energy of knowing who I am, it literally took a hot minute for me to find my current partner. I was not looking, and boop, there he was running a marathon beside me. Right. And so that's where we met. And we just celebrated 5 years together. And when you are in this space of growth, learning, accepting yourself, loving yourself, building the strong foundation of the relationship with yourself, this is building up that energy. It's raising that frequency, raising that vibration. And other people are drawn to that. They're like, oh, well, hold on a minute. There's something about this person. Or if they're at a very different frequency, they're like, ooh, no, that's too much for me, maybe, right? It's probably which is a large part of why my marriage didn't work out, because I continued to grow and evolve, and it just became clear that was no longer working for me. But it's true that the energy you put out is the energy you attract back. It's like a frigging magnet. And yet so often humans go through life totally missing this. We're just like, oh, I wonder why this is happening to me, but never pausing to look at what they're creating, the energy that they're putting, the thoughts that they're having, and all of these things that are contributing. And this is a conversation I have a lot with my kids, right? The things that you are being and expecting and thinking about are drawing those things often to you. And so navigating that into a marketing world, we want to make sure that we're putting out things that are really aligned, the things that we truly want, and the energy behind it is matching that. So what about the different energy types? Meg, this is your zone of genius. I do know a little bit about human design, but I'm going to invite you to share a little bit about, hopefully I'll have your charts in front of you. You know what general your profile type is. Share with us a little bit about maybe some of the key marketing differences around those different types, just so that people get an idea of, well, if I'm a generator, maybe this is a little bit more for me, or whatnot.
Yeah. So when it comes to types, again, the one important thing to say before I even start is to remember that human design really what teaches you is to be yourself. So there are a lot of information out there, and there are 5 types. But then eventually they're not just 5 type of people. It's not that all generators are going to do the same thing. It's not going to work, right? It's really about checking all your chart and really understanding who you are and what feels right to you specifically. So one generator can have a completely different strategy in marketing than another one, because marketing is different. You're different. You're a different person. Your branding is different. Your tone of voice is different. What you do is different. So that's really, really important. I always say that. I always repeat it. But as a general idea, when you think of the type, you think of the aura, right? So we all have different type of auras. And when it comes to generator and manifesting generator, for example, we have this aura that is very like a, they say, like a big bear hugging you. So it's very friendly, very welcoming. So this is why we say that we attract things. And for us, it's very important to notice the signs around us, because we this aura is always attracting things towards us. Okay, we don't need to do, quote unquote, we don't need to do anything. That's not true. But we need to be present. We really need to be present. We really need to be paying attention to our environment and to the signs we receive, because that's where we respond. Okay, so we say that we respond, which means we have to be aware of what's happening. So when it comes to marketing, for example, what I suggest to my clients, or something that I do myself, is if I'm scrolling on Facebook and I see a post or something and I notice something that I could help the person with, I'm going to create a post out of that. So I'm responding to something that I'm seeing instead of having an idea out of nowhere. Or if I have someone leave a comment and ask a question, I'm going to respond to this question, and I'm going to probably use that question to create something, a freebie, a piece of content, something, because this is me receiving something and I have the opportunity to put my knowledge out there thanks to this question. So I'm opening that conversation. And usually our tone of voice is very friendly, very welcoming as the aura. So it's really opening this aura and really inviting people to ask questions. That's why, for example, when I do free events, I don't do them often. I prefer to write. That's my line too. But when I do free events, I do master classes and stuff, I always do workshops, and I have people in the Zoom with me, and we go back and forth. So they ask questions and I reply, and that really works well for me, because I noticed that it works better for me to have people asking questions and I just get things out of my mind, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. For example, projectors have this aura that is very penetrating, and that means that they really can see deep into you, like they have this like penetrating you. Yeah, like going deep, deep, deep. And that simply means that they're so focused on the person they have in front of them that can really see them deep. And that's why the strategy is to be invited, because they're so focused. They're like, like this, like looking in front of them. And so they have to have someone around that say, hey, come, right? So they need to be invited to get distracted from their focus, which is why for a projector it's very important to recognize, first of all, themselves, to see themselves, to recognize their zone of genius, and to share that zone of genius. So a lot of time projector they try to respond, they try to keep up with the rules of marketing, posting every day and do a lot of things, which is not something that they have in themselves, because they don't have a sacral energy, so they get tired more than a generator. So it's important for them to really share, yes, like you, to really share their expertise, to really be the guide they're here to be, because they're like a guide, right? So they really have to put themselves out there as the guide. And first, they have to recognize themselves as such, so other people can see that they're the guide, right? So that's super important. And they have to create a marketing strategy that really is in alignment with their energy. I see so many projectors burning out, and it's terrible, because there's no need to do a lot of things as long as your message is clear and is creating this presence that really subconsciously talks to people. That's all you need. You don't need to overdo things. That's really important for projectors, because they're the one who suffers the most from these marketing things. Right?
Yeah, it's so much hustle, right? That whole hustle culture that we seem to have built up is very, well, it's exhausting probably for almost anyone, but
everyone.
Even more so if you're a projector who really just would rather go through life a little bit more slowly.
Yeah, and it's important to know that there is a big I've heard so many times projectors saying, well, I'm supposed to be invited, so I'm just going to wait here until someone invites me. Or even generators and manifesting generators, I'm just going to sit here and wait to respond. That's not how it works. If you have a business, you also have to, go out there and build your business. It's not just going to happen. But it's from energetic point of view, which means recognize yourself as the expert and put yourself out there so people can invite you. That's for the projectors. For generators and manifesting generators, it's really about being present, really being present and trusting the process as well, because trust is a big part in this type of aura. And being super present to see the signs and use the signs to create. And those signs can be very, very tiny, so we have to be very present. As for manifestors, they have a different type of energy. They usually are kind of the rebel. So they kind of get things started and they can go very fast, but they don't have usually the energy to finish a project. So it's important for them to have a VA or have very short projects, very small offers, like mini offers, for example. Things that are quick to start and finish, or they can start and someone else, a generator, for example, take them through to the end. That's very important for manifestors because they have this energy of starting things. They have plenty of ideas and they need to put those ideas out there because that's how they create, right? So that's super important.
Yeah.
And reflectors are more like they sample a lot of energy around them and they have this they're like a mirror to society. So for them, it can be very useful to share what they see in the world. They have this capacity of mirroring what they see in society, in the world, and just speak from that perspective.
So much already to consider, but again, just circling back to your reminder, it's a permission slip to do what feels right for you. And so sometimes these rough guidelines, you might be thinking, that doesn't fit me at all. Or you might be thinking, that fits me perfectly, or somewhere in between. And that's okay, because there's a lot of different parts and you are unique in so many other areas and pieces, especially now then you've got those two lines that play in as well. And one thing I observed on my chart is I don't have just those two lines. I have all the other lines. They're really all, like, so many of them are also really I have lots of 1 lines. I have lots of 3 lines. I'm a 2-4, but I really have lots of, makes sense because I like to go down rabbit holes and I love to read and explore and learn. So it makes sense that there's some 1 lines in there as well. And as a business owner, I think you can't do business without a bit of a line 3 energy, because it is a lot about trial and error and testing things out and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And honestly, that's just sort of business in general, I think, is sort of an exploratory journey through, okay, let me try this out. Okay, that worked, that didn't work. What can I learn from this, right? And exploring different options. What do you have to share on incorporating now some of these lines into the bigger picture? Now, again, we can only go so deep into this topic in a short masterclass. We don't want to leave you overwhelmed or confused about all of the details. So we're going to be just keeping this quite high level. And if you want to get a little bit deeper into the human design, obviously reach out to Meg. She can help you to really explore your chart and see specifically for you what that would look like. But in a general sense, share with us how we might incorporate some of these line factors into our marketing.
Right. So for the lines, there are some guidelines.
Yeah.
Guidelines. So you can have, as you said, is a general guideline. So it's always depending on the person. For example, there are a lot of things that they say about manifesting generators that don't apply to me because I have this 2 line, because I have a lot of even just looking at the variables, so the little arrows at the top, for example, those are super, super important. And for example, one of my arrows, the motivation innocence, and I'm not going to go into that because it's too complex for the majority of people, but just that makes a huge difference on the reason why I do what I do and how I do it. So the way I show up and how I do things, which relates a lot to the line 6, for example. That's why I think almost all of my clients have a line 6 because they really resonate with the way you shop, because that's what you're trying to achieve, because that's typical of the line 6. But I'm not a line 6. Okay, so that is to say, is not strict. It's not that because you have a line 1, you have to do this. It really depends on your chart. You really have to look into your variable, like the channels. There's a lot of pieces, and we have different lines throughout the whole chart. So it can be very, generic, what I'm about to say. So don't take it to the point.
And as comment Jess said, it's your own special combination of shimmer. That's really what it is. It is combining all of these unique pieces into the whole of you.
Yeah, exactly. So knowing where to look into the chart can be useful, but don't get overwhelmed with it, because like human design, there's so much. So start with the suggestion I gave is always starting with the strategy. So the type, the R, and the authority. So what feels right to you. So that can be emotional. So finding that calm. It can be talking to yourself, whatever it is, the authority. I don't think we're going to have the time to go into the authority, but as long as you really learn to listen to what your body's saying, you're in the right path. Okay, let's say that this way. As for the lines, the general idea is that the line 1 is really into getting deep into certain topics. They really get into the rabbit hole, and they have this, I call them the scientists, because they really get the librarian, sorry, because they really get deep into the topic. Like imagine you have a library full of books and you really want to investigate everything. So when it comes to content, for example, they could really share some perspective that is really more in depth, more like resources or something that's really specific to the topic that is not common knowledge, because it's very, you really have to get deep and dig very deep to find that information, kind of thing. The line 2, which is like us, it's really important for the line 2, the hermit, to have the space and time to be in their cave. That means, so something that I do in my marketing is I don't do lives. I don't do regular things, like I don't do weekly calls with my clients. I don't force myself to shop when I don't feel like it, because the 2 energy is felt. So when you're in the hermit mode and you shop because you should, but not because you want to, people will absolutely feel it. There's no way for you to hide it. Like people just know. So forget about it, okay? So something that's really good for a line 2 is, for example, to have automations in place. So a freebie that's easily available on your Facebook profile, and people can go through the whole thing without you having to be present. And usually lines 2 have a unique genius that they can't see. So usually people around them, they can really see it, but the line 2 usually it's like the example that it's made in human design is that you are inside of a house with the lights on, and people see from outside. It's dark outside and people can see inside of the house, and they can see what you're doing. They can see you perfectly well, like with all the lights on, but you can't see yourself. There's no mirror around. So it's very hard for us to find what that genius is. So the suggestions I always give is ask people around you, and not random people, not people that don't know you, people that really, really know you. Ask them what they think your genius is, and have a little folder with all the good comments, all of these kind of things, so you kind of get to understand it at some point, and try to share this very genuine way, and don't force yourself in marketing. If you don't want to shop, just stop. That's perfectly fine. As a line 3, that's the scientist, and that's really trying things, really, and don't be attached to the outcome. That's for everyone.
Yeah, that's for everyone, for sure. Anyone in business.
Yeah. In business, what counts is the intention that you put into it, not the outcome, because you can't predict the outcome, right? There's no control over it. But especially true for line 3. So line 3 really, a lot of times they feel like they're completely scattered, like manifesting generators. they have a lot in common, because they feel like they go from one thing to the other, and they feel like, oh, this is the thing that I want to do, and the next day they're gonna have change. Like their trial and error is very short time, so it's very quick. They go from one thing to the other, and that's perfectly fine. They need to go through each thing to know if it's right for them or not. So it's really being in that, wearing the scientist, how you call it, the
lab coat.
The lab coat. That's the
yeah. And I think that's essential in life too, to learn who we are. We need to try different things. Like we need to try things on. And I would say, we had a recent conversation about boundaries. Sometimes we don't know what our boundaries are until we test them, until we cross them, until they've been crossed. And we say, oh, hold up a minute. That did not feel good for me. So now I maybe need to create a boundary around this. And the same is true in business, right? If we're trying things, we're like, oh, that's actually really exhausting. I don't really love that. I've been doing that for a while and I'm not loving it. It just is more information. And I think a lot of people get stuck on the idea of failure if something doesn't work out. But maybe it's just information leading you in the direction of the things that you're meant to do. I just think Thomas Edison, 10,000 ways of that it didn't work. It's all information about getting closer to how it is going to work.
Are you ready to break free from self-doubt and embrace a life of empowerment? Introducing the Unstuck for Women Daily Self-Discovery Journal, the ultimate companion to my international best-selling book, Unstuck for Women. This beautifully designed journal will take you on a transformative 90-day journey of gratitude, self-discovery, and personal growth. Each day, you'll dive deep into powerful insights, prompts, and exercises that build confidence and self-love. Align your actions with your desired feeling state and watch as your life transforms. This journal is your key to unlocking the extraordinary woman within you. So get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and personal growth like never before. You can order your copy of the Unstuck for Women Daily Self-Discovery Journal today. Unleash your limitless potential.
Yeah, it's like even human design, it's an experiment because there's no way for you to know who you are and what works for you if you don't try it first. There's no one else that can tell you. It's the same for marketing. No one else can tell you what works for you because it's unique to you, your personality, your energy, what you do, your work, your type of niche, And so when you get this, use my strategy, that
doesn't work.
No.
Unless it happens to just perfectly line up and the right person does a thing and then that happens to work for them and it's aligned for them. But oh my gosh, we can spend so much time going out there and trying other people's strategies and being like, what the fuck? Why does this not work for me? It works for them. It doesn't work for me. Why am I a failure? And so we want to just really make sure that we're staying out of that because it doesn't at all mean you're a failure. It just means it's not aligned for you.
Exactly. Because it's all about the energy you put in there. So if I'm a generator and you are a projector and you use my strategy, probably I'm going to do a million things a day and you're just going to burn out after 2 days.
Right.
So it's not sustainable. And a business needs to be sustainable in the long term if you want to go long term. Otherwise, that's it. So what really matters is the message that you're sharing. And that's, as I said before, it's big chunk of it is subconscious. So once you're aligned, once you really find the way to communicate in a way that feels good to you, a big chunk of the job is actually there, right? That's the best strategy you can use, being aligned to yourself.
Yeah,
that's a good start.
Go figure, it's being you.
Yeah, that's the power of branding. Especially today, it's so busy. The more you can be yourself, the more you can really create this presence that is you, uniquely you, the more you can really stick to people's mind. And then we get into the more technical part, which is positioning, which is, the big part of work that I do. But being there energetically, it makes a huge difference. So even knowing that trying things is perfectly fine. There's no way that you know before having tried, especially as a line 3. And the same work for line 6. Line 6 and line 3 are very similar, but especially in the first part of life. But then line 6 proceeds to be the guide, right? To be a bit the guru, the role model. So they have these phases where they need to try things because otherwise they never become the role model they're here to become if they don't try things, if they don't fail, if they don't find their own way out, right? And that works for everyone, but especially for these lines. And then you have, picking up on the lines, the line 4. So the line 4 and 5 can be quite similar, certain, like there are aspects, for example, they're quite outgoing. But the line 4 is more about the connection that you have in your network. And that means that can be your friends, your neighbors, your village, the friends of your friends, your colleagues, like people who are somehow connected to you in a direct or indirect way, like somehow the people around you in the big picture. And so, for example, it can work very well to be a guest in a podcast or in a masterclass, or collaborate with other people, go to networking events, like invited by someone else maybe, or the referral links works very well because people will recommend you, so you have all these inner connection. So line 4 is great for that. And opposite to line 5. Line 5 can convert strangers. So you can have a random website page and people will find out of nowhere, never heard of you, and then still buy. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen to other lines, of course. It means that it might be easier for a line 5 to achieve that than a line 4, for example. And usually the line 5 is also quite radical. So we have this innovative way of putting things together. So it can be interesting to focus on the why your offer is different, or why is like the innovation part of what you do, especially if you're a manifesting generator and a line 5, because it's all about innovating and teaching. So yeah, and a line 4 is really getting into this networking, so really nurturing your relationships with people. That's super, super important, more than a 5 or a 3 or anyone else.
That definitely resonates for me. I am so about nurturing relationships with people. Like that is everything to me for sure. And the relationship with myself. So there's that 2 line again.
Always.
Yeah.
It's important to also notice that the first 3 lines are more like the inner exploration of the self. So if you like, when you have a 1, 2, 3, those lines usually means that you need that time alone. So the line 1, your alone time might be more focused on researching and studying and really learning. The line 2 is more about self-reflection. And the line 3 is about experimenting and trying things, because that's that inner time with yourself is super important to be able to move forward, to really become who you're meant to become, right? That's the inner process.
Every human.
Right.
Yeah. That relationship with self is the foundation to the experiences that we're creating in life. And actually that relationship with self being the foundation. That's the theme of the whole 2nd season of my podcast, because I just really feel like if you get to know yourself really well, you create this foundation of, this is for me, this is in alignment, this is what I desire, this is what I want to create, these are the things that light my fucking soul on fire, then you're in your zone.
Yeah. And that's the same for marketing. Like it can be a relationship, it can be life, but it's the same for marketing, because it's your business, it's your creation. So the way you express it, it has to feel good to you, because I see marketing. I know that's very not the common idea of marketing, but to me, marketing is really self-care. And it can also be healing, because you can take this time to really listen to yourself, to really decide what feels good to you, what you want to do, and talking about the things that you're passionate about, also about your journey, also about making the effort to communicate with people from a very deep place within you, not to be on the surface of communication. This is not pro marketing, right?
Yeah.
And it's also important to see it as a process where you discover yourself and allow yourself to be yourself, because that, to show up in marketing and create a brand that is truly who you are and express your own voice unapologetically, like without the shoulds, without what I should be doing, and trusting yourself to be able to do it. It's a huge step into self-love. That's how I say it. So
and that's how we can have ethical sales, right?
exactly.
Is that we are not trying to be someone else. We're not trying to fit into a mold. We're not trying to do like we should or supposed to, shoulding all over ourselves, as I like to say, but actually getting behind the thing that feels really good for us to offer, to sell, to do, to share, to be. That's how we can step into ethical sales. Because I think that a lot of people really feel this marketing ick when they're out of alignment. Like that's just literally, that's the connection. It just doesn't, it's not aligned for them. And so they're trying to do something that's just not a fit. And so again, to tie this back to relationship, because honestly, the relationships you have with people or your business, there's so many ties there. It's okay if it's not a fit, right? You try a relationship, it's not a fit. You say, okay, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or me. And I mean, this is where people need to work on this maybe in general. We're not all there yet where we can say it's not me. It's not a problem with me. It's not a problem with you. It's just that we're not a fit. But oh my gosh, I would love to see more people coming to that realization. It's okay to not be a fit. Like there's 8 billion people on the planet. Some of them aren't going to fit, right? And sometimes we try so hard to make something fit that's not fitting. And that leads us to burnout and exhaustion and probably not calling in the clients, or not calling in the right clients, calling in people who are not aligned for us, that aren't coming to the table with whatever is the right fit. And so their results might suffer too. So the problem is this plays out all the way down the line where if you're not in alignment for you throughout this process, that's going to trickle down and it's going to have effects down the road. So I don't know, throwing some examples out there, but you might have clients that don't show up, or they don't pay you, or they don't put in the work, or there's just a lot of resistance around it. And so if our marketing is calling those kinds of people in because we're not aligned, we're drawing in more of this misalignment. So it's so important to just get aligned within ourselves, get centered within ourselves, get to know who we are. And I think we don't know what's aligned for us if we don't know who we are. So that first step again is like really building that relationship, really learning, discovering about ourselves, remembering who we are before the world told us who we're supposed to.
I love that you say remembering who you are, because we know, right? We already know who you are. But then we get conditioned by society, by rules, by the environment. So even the fact that we get into this energy of I need clients, or I need to do these things because I need to grow this business, whatever. And that's not the energy that we are meant to live in, right? The needy energy. And that's because we need to pay the bills. And that's part of conditioning, because we are used to believe that we need a house and we need to pay bills. But in truth, there are a lot of cultures that don't have that problem. They don't even have a house. They don't even have bills, right? So we could live in different ways if we wanted, but we are conditioned. That's the only reality that we know, so we stick to it, and so we create this whole circumstances for ourselves, and that's the conditioning part. Is something that I work a lot with my clients, because it's so ingrained in us. It's so deep, and human design can help you find where you're the most conditioned and can really get rid of this energy. And I think that's really important. I had a lot of clients who are conditioned to, for example, they have to post every day. And if they don't post, they get stressed because, everything just falls down. And again, it's that trust that you can do it even without shooting yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you really let go of this energy that don't belongs to you because they're not meant to be there in the first place, there's this sense of freedom, the sense of relief, because you really start to do things in a way that it's fun. It feels good. You're excited. So I see my clients come to me and they're like, I'm exhausted and it's not working. I have to do these events every month and I don't like it. And within like a few weeks, they're like, I'm creating an event. I'm so excited because I'm doing this. And they really unleash their creativity, which is amazing, right? And human design can really help you do that, because it really gets you out of what you should be doing and notice what are the things that you do because you think you should. Because sometimes the conditioning is so deep that you don't realize it. And it happens all of the time. Like it happens to me all the time as well. Sometimes I do things, and then if I really get into that, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, hold
Wait
on.
a minute. Hold on. Wait, it doesn't feel that good now that I think about it. And it's
And
really
that's
about
another tricky
connecting.
thing too, because the conditioning has led us to believe that this life is about suffering, right? And so we think that's normal, that life is
Yeah.
hard, that relationships are hard, that business is hard. And there are aspects, and of course, I'm not saying it's also easy. Don't get me wrong. It becomes easy once you get past the challenges, once you learn, once you get past that hard part, which does require some perseverance. But it doesn't always have to stay difficult. And if we hold on to this idea that things are difficult all the time, well, guess what? They tend to be more difficult because we're searching for the difficulties. So it's kind of a catch-22. And this conditioning starts from like before we're born. We are starting to be conditioned into this is how it's supposed to be, and this is who you're going to be. And then we go through school and we express ourselves, and other people don't respond in favorable ways. So we start shutting ourselves down. And so I always just kind of like to say that it's not about, you don't have to become somebody else. You're already her. You just need to strip away the parts of you so that you can live fully expressed in that version of you that is already, that you are already whole and fully expressed and uniquely you in your design, in your archetypes, in your expression, in all of it. And that's when it really kind of starts to get fun, because now you actually just get to be real and be you. And when you are that, I know it's scary at first because of the conditioning and because we've built relationships built on some of those masks, right?
Yeah.
And so it can be terrifying to start to drop the masks and really be ourselves. There's definitely a lot of fear conditioning in across the globe. Honestly, every single day I'm seeing it. And so if we can drop some of that, if we can let go of some of that, trust that if we are authentically us, that the people who are authentically attracted to us can then come into our world.
Yeah. And I get it, because it's that fear of not being liked, but the risk of not being liked comes with the advantage of being loved, because you're so authentic that people just love you. They don't like you, they just love you. And you build the best relationships because they're very deep and genuine, more than when you try to please someone or try to be someone. And we don't even realize that we do it, because when you think about it, when we're kids, we're like, we can't have the ice cream because before we should do our homework, right? So we get into this idea that we first should do the work, the hard work, the things that we don't like, then we're going to have the reward. So we hustle, we do the icky marketing, we do the things that we don't want to do, but we should. So then we're going to have the good things, the good clients, the good
and
money,
the external
whatever.
validation.
Yeah.
But like you said, right, that love, that internal validation, flipping this inward and expressing from the inside out allows such a greater experience.
Yeah. Like, we're adults, so we can get the ice cream without doing the homework before. Who cares? Just go and get your fucking ice cream.
Get the ice cream. Absolutely.
The ice cream.
Unless you're lactose intolerant, make sure you're getting some sorbet or something.
Yeah, whatever works for you. If you don't like ice cream, get something else. As long as it's what you want, what you actually want.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I know we're coming closer to the end of our time. Do you have any other things that are on your mind pressing to share before we hop into our sort of wrap up?
Yeah. So not specifically, but just remember, for everyone who's listening, the way you feel makes a huge difference on how people perceive you. So there's no need to learn all of the information about your human design and understand everything about your human design, because you're going to get into rabbit hole, you're going to go crazy, because there's a lot of stuff. It's very important that you really get within and see what really feels good to you or what doesn't really feels good to you. So if you feel drained or energized, write everything down, have a list of the things that you're doing, and try to, for each piece of your marketing, for example, what is it that drains you and what is it that energizes you? And how can you make the things that are draining you more energizing, for example, more fun? The reason why I didn't go into like specifics or how you can speak in your marketing is because it's really so personal, depending on your branding, depending on your personality. So this is just having an idea on how to navigate and really understanding how your aura interacts with other people's auras. And that's super, once you get that piece and you trust that by listening to what really feels good within you, you're on the right path. That's the biggest thing, because that makes the difference.
Yeah, it's just creating some awareness in yourself to reflect, right? And then allow that to be reflected outward in your marketing. And there is no one else that can do that for you. That is literally coming from you, right? Your voice, your shares, your inspiration.
Yeah, I can, like, for example, with my clients, I help them with the branding. So I work a lot with the subconscious. So it's the multisensorial experiences to create this presence, the positioning, the communication, like, what the people want and how to communicate it. But the alignment piece, I can guide them. I can give them direction based on their human design. But there's not something that we can really do together. It's something that comes within. So apart from helping them gain more awareness, that's really something that no one else can help you with, because you're the only person who can feel it within and say, oh, this is right for me, this is not right for me. There's no one else that can say it for you. So that's really a personal and very intimate journey. So,
and isn't it interesting that we have so many of us been chasing the answer, right? We're trying to find the strategy. We're trying to find the perfect course that's going to teach us what we need to know. We're looking for all of those answers outside of ourselves. And the truth is, the answers can only be found within. So,
yeah.
Meg, tell us, first of all, where people listening or watching can get a hold of you. And also share with us any offers that you'd like to share today. Courses, I know you have some courses and some programs, so feel free to share those as well.
Okay. As where to find me, you can find me on Facebook, so Meg Rouje. You're probably going to see me here anyway.
Yeah.
And I also have a website where I post all of my blogs, which is also something I post on Facebook. That's www.megrouge.com. Simple as that. Oops. And I do have a course. It's a mini course. It's about 2 hours, and it kind of gives an overview of this process. Includes human design, so really how to write content in alignment, and then also this whole process can be used in creating events. For example, I also do in live events and things like that. So it's not about knowing your human design, because we use the throat center. And you don't need to learn anything specific about this. It's just having some prompts and really writing from this energy of what comes to you. And that's just kind of a practice. The more you practice writing in flow, the easier it becomes. And then you have the part with the subconscious communication. So it's really getting into how you communicate in your marketing through your branding in a way that makes sense to people at a deeper level. So it's not surface level stuff. It's really about creating an experience in the mind of people that's really deep and it's really meaningful for them. And that's through metaphors and storytelling and using the senses, because our connection with the word is done through the senses, not through the words, right? And then also there is a piece on the archetypes. So how to use the archetypes to elevate this kind of experience and make it even more powerful and more meaningful. So we work with the values and how you convey all of this through your branding. This is really powerful. This is really about, what the big international brands do, and they make millions. So there's really no difference between the strategy that we can use as solopreneurs or big million-dollar company. It's just how we apply it and how it aligns based on our energy. And then we have in this course, like you have all these pieces, and then you understand how to put everything together in a type of content. It's based on psychology that really resonates with the audience. That helps you position as the person who has the right solution for the person who's reading. So this is a mini course. It's about 2 hours, and it's called the Sea Dragon Journey. And it was a live event before, and we had amazing results. Like people got hundreds of people in their groups and stuff like that. I was like, oh my goodness. So I decided to turn it into an actual course. And so it's now available. It's about 2 hours. It's very short videos. It's about 10 minutes less each video. So it's very intuitive. It's very easy to watch. It's very practical as a 5-2.
Super fun, actually. Like your branding is very fun. So I would say that is, if you want something that's kind of fun and light and going to be able to help you integrate the concepts, because we all know knowledge without integration, not going to cut it. So we've got to take the things that we know, we've got to put them into practice. And what better way to do that than something that's really fun like that? So I love your branding. It is super fun. The whales and the sea dragons, it's just a fun energy to be around.
And I'm a 5-2. So another things, about human design, the 5-2 lines is very, very practical. So there's no way I'm going to give something just for information. It has to come as, as my karma. So that my karmic mission is to make things practical for my community. So I try really to make everything very doable. So that's why it's so much fun. And you get tiny exercises and playbooks that you can apply. It's fun. I think, like, my point of view is branding and marketing is all about, it's an opportunity to really unleash your creativity. And that means that it's fun, because when it's creative, we're meant to play.
We're meant to play in life. We're not meant to only play as children. We're meant to continue playing. And so many times we do lose that essence of play. So a little squishy.
Yeah, I always do events with little stuffed animals and stuff like that, because it's fun. And I think we have to really give ourselves permission to have fun, because a lot of times we take the fun away from the things that we do because we should be professional, we should be an authority. No, you can have fun, and that's it, and just play. It's much better.
And that definitely makes it a lot more easy, right? That's when we get to that more easeful flow, is when we're in that play and fun energy. So who doesn't want that? I mean, I don't know. Both hands up over here. I love having fun and playing. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on human design and marketing and subconscious energetics beneath the surface, because they all play so much together. Just want to encourage everyone to explore themselves a little bit, really work on this relationship, get to know what is in alignment for you, do some trial and error, do some research, whatever feels really exciting and good to you, just go explore that and make it fun. Have a little bit of playtime. So thank you so much, Meg, for being here. Everybody listening, watching, I love you all. Let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Create Your Happy's special bonus season. I trust this real, raw, uncut conversation will fuel your inner fire and provide you with the practical action steps needed to propel you forward. It's time to unlock your path to consciously creating an impact and leaving your legacy. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with other women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. My guest and I would love to hear from you. You'll find the links to connect with us both in the show notes. And if you're ready to take your life, relationship, and business to the next level, I invite you to consider working with me one-on-one. Together, we'll uplevel every aspect of your beautiful human journey to create the fulfilling relationships that you desire and deserve. Reach out to learn more about how we can embark on this transformative journey together. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.